Grow Cook Eat is proudly sponsored by Board Bia and StopFoodWaste.ie.
Welcome to Grow Cook Eat. Each week we're growing one-star vegetable and we'll show you how easy it is to get from pot to plate.
No matter how much time, space or experience you have,
it's amazing what you can grow
with just a little effort.
You learn all the tips and tricks to growing glorious greens in the garden.
So what are we waiting for?
Let's get growing. This week we're all about beetroot, one of Mick Kelly's favourites.
Yep, that's right, Karen. Beetroot for me is one of the most underrated vegetables in the garden. It's super versatile, and for anyone on the fence about it, we're going to convince you to give it a second chance.
We'll also be looking at apples with a visit to a famous orchard in Tipperary. And I'm taking on a planting challenge.
And Jack Kerwin is on hand again to cook up a trio of beets in the Grow Cook Eat Cafe.
Voila.
Voila!
The beetroot.
The beetroot.
Just an absolute, I mean, look at the colours in this.
It's fantastic.
We're all accused of eating too much beige food these days.
Yeah.
This is like the total opposite of that. It's absolutely vibrant colours. In this relatively small piece of ground in front of us, we've got kind of 20, 25 beetroots, so good value for space.
It's really one of the most nutritious veg that's around. You can cook it, juice it, eat it raw.
Eat it raw, grate it,
pickle it,
boil it.
Yeah.
No, don't boil it actually.
No, don't boil it.
Later.
What is not to love about beetroot?
Yeah, really versatile. It's got the highest folic acid content of any veg. One of the best things you could possibly eat.
And of course, the great thing about it, when you grow it yourself, is that you literally go and harvest it as you need it. So zero waste. And also you can eat every single bit.
Every single bit.
Of this great veg.
To here.
But hey, how do we get to this point?
It didn't happen all by magic. So we had to start right at the beginning with some seed sowing. So check this out.
We're sowing a variety of beetroot called Detroit Globe. And like the tomatoes, we have to start the seeds in trays. So it's off to the potting shed.
What we're going to do is start off by overfilling. Yep. Give it a bang on the table, which helps it to sort of settle down like that. Now overfill it a second time.
Okay. This is to avoid any air pockets forming in the module trays.
That's exactly it. So we
get listen.
Yeah, occasionally. It's nice. So we get that overfilled, and then we use our little stick to slice off the excess like that. And we get a nice level surface, and then I'm going to go along. So beetroot seeds are kind of an unusual one in that they are actually a cluster of seeds. Good rule of thumb with seeds is you're going about twice as deep as the size of the seed, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
Yeah, so beetroot seeds are not as tiny as some of the ones we're working with.
Two went in. Does it matter?
That's okay. No, don't worry about it. We can thin them out. So one seed in each of the little modules.
Except for the odd random two.
Yeah, where you made a mistake. That's fine. Okay, so overfill the tray again. So pile it all up on top there. And again, because the seeds are sitting down into the little indentations we made.
Can I do this bit?
You can do this bit. So the key here is over and back. Oh. Nice action there.
Nice over and back technique.
Very good. There's about 80 cells in total in this tray, which might be a bit overkill even if you're a beetroot lover.
Even those hardcore of juicers.
Yeah. So we can mix things up a bit here. We can put baby turnips, we can put some spinach.
Oh yeah, good.
You know, mix it all up in the tray and they'll all work along fine together. Keep them somewhere relatively warm at this time of the year. They're going to need about a month in the tray.
Warmth?
Yeah, warmth.
Indoors.
And then we're going to be planting them out in about 4 to 5 weeks' time.
Okay, sounds good. Give them a little drink.
Here we go.
Done.
And we're ready.
We're a month on and we have our beautiful beetroot, turnips and spinach ready for planting
Bursting out of the tray. They need to be got into the ground.
Okay.
So the beauty of these module trays is that you can just use your finger to poke it through. It should come out relatively easily. An interesting thing about beetroot seeds in a very nerdy, not so interesting way is that even when you sow one little seed, you sometimes get 2 seedlings coming because it's actually a little cluster of seeds that you sow with beetroot.
Okay.
So that's why we've got 2 of those there. So you have a choice to make. You can either leave it like that and you're going to get 2 beetroot stuck together. Yeah,
okay.
and much smaller. I genuinely, as you know, exactly. I like neatness and order, so I would generally pull that out and just leave one to grow on. So basically with these, they're going to be going into the ground The rows need to be about 30 centimetres apart, which, as we know, is a ruler's length.
A ruler's length.
So about that far apart. And then within the row, you get them about 10 centimetres apart. So you get a really good value for space with beetroot. Because if you think about even this small raised bed, one row, we're probably going to get about 20 beetroot.
Come here, is that because, again, all the action is happening below ground, so it doesn't need a lot of space above the ground for growth?
It's just that, I suppose, if you think about the size that beetroot we want, I don't like beetroot to be too big, so I like to keep them quite small, around golf ball size only.
That's tiny.
Yeah, exactly. If you let them get too big, they get woody, they're not so nice to eat.
Okay, so keep them golf ball size. Good.
Yeah, so you just literally make a little tiny hole and then kind of firm it in like that.
Okay.
And Bob's your uncle, yeah? At the minute, the nights are cold, so we need to give these little plants some extra TLC. So this is like horticultural fleece. You can buy it in any garden centre. Literally, you put it out like you're putting them to bed in a blanket.
Oh, just slightly cover them.
And maybe a little bit of soil.
To weight it down?
A little bit of soil on the edges to weight it down like that, yeah? And they'll only need that for a couple of weeks, and only really if it's cold at night time.
Okay.
Yeah? So last thing to say, I know you're a big fan of container growing. The exact same spacing would apply. They'll grow quite happily in this. Same rules as always, though. You need a little bit of drainage in the container so that the water doesn't sit in the bottom. Just make your little hole for the plug and stick it in. And same spacing, about 10 centimetres apart. Happy days.
Happy days. Thank you, Mick.
With way too much fruit and veg in the supermarkets coming from abroad, I'm paying a visit to an amazing apple farmer in Tip, who's leading the charge with Irish-grown produce.
The farm started in 1967 when my parents came from Holland to live here. They were already involved in fruit growing in Holland, but it wasn't easy to get land there. And there was an electrician who was emigrating from Ireland and he was selling this farm, so they bought it and started growing fruit here. It took them a lot longer than they thought. I think they reckoned that within 10 years they'd have the whole place covered in fruit, but it took nearly 50 years, but kind of getting there now all right. There's usually about 1,000 trees to the acre, so that's about 10,000 trees altogether that we would have on 10 acres, and we've got 40 acres, so 40,000 trees altogether, you could say. I suppose about half our apples are sold fresh. That would be cooking apples that might go to bakeries or to people who call in and collect them directly. Quarter of the apples would end up being juiced, and then the other quarter would go to Bulmers. Most of the apples in the world are grown in places, with the kind of temperatures that we might associate with France or southern Italy or, somewhere warmer than here. So the varieties Irish growers in general grow tend to be, different to the ones that you'll get in the shops.
So Con, if you're going to plant an apple tree in your garden, what's the best time of the year to do that?
We would generally try and plant in November or December, or then again when the soil starts to dry out again, maybe in March. Okay. Try not to go too late. You're better off really doing it during the winter months while there's no leaves on the trees.
Is there a sort of a basic principle about pruning that?
Yeah. When the trees are young, we try to get them into a kind of an A shape.
Right.
So you can see there's a bit of string around these branches here. Yeah. These branches were pointing up like that main branch there, and last year we tied them to horizontal. So you can see the consequence of that is that you're spreading the tree out sideways, and branches which are horizontal are more inclined to give fruit than ones which are growing up.
Fair enough. Like, how long is it going to be before you get your first fruit? Like,
well, you can see this tree here has already got 12 or 15 fruit on it, and it's only here 2 years. It's probably got a few more fruit than it should, but we can still take off a few, before the harvest.
Okay, so it's quite relatively quick return, and then within a couple of years, you're hopefully getting.
The tree will get bigger, and it will give more. It will be able to give more fruit as it gets bigger.
What's the scale of imports coming in?
Yeah, unfortunately in Ireland, most of the apples we consume are imported. All right, so like 90 to 95%, depending on the year. So we eat about 100 million euros worth of apples in Ireland every year, and 95 million euros worth of those are from abroad.
That is crazy. But I presume as consumers, like, we can ask for Irish apples. We can be willing to pay a little bit more to support amazing farmers like yourselves, get the better flavours, the better diversity and all of that. We have that power as consumers.
Absolutely, and there's an environmental benefit to eating locally produced foods as well. the tricky part for people buying apples is that they're not going to probably be familiar with a lot of the Irish varieties, so they might be reluctant then to try them if they do see them in a shop. I suppose that's one of the advantages of getting people to grow their own apples. If they do that, they'll build up a familiarity with some different varieties that do grow well here. Hopefully they'll seek them out then from Irish growers.
It's early May and it's time to check back in with our beetroot. It's been only 7 weeks since we sowed them and they're looking great. A good tip at this point is to give them an additional feed. Karen is sprinkling on some seaweed dust. It's potassium rich and it's going to give them a great boost over the next few weeks.
Grow Cook Eat is proudly sponsored by StopFoodWaste.ie and Board Bia.